Good Saturday evening to everybody. It is the 1st of February and a slightly different weekend here on the channel. Instead of the Global Weather Report live tomorrow, it is today the 127th edition of the Global Weather Report. There is a lot of things going on around the planet at the moment, so we are going to take a little tour around and see what has been taking place over the last 7 days or so. Tomorrow it will be the February Outlook live at 4 p.m. We're going to be looking at the February Outlook. It certainly promises to be an interesting one if you're a lover of all things weather and winter in particular, because it looks as if we do have some very fascinating things developing within the atmosphere as we progress through the course of next week and beyond. So, without saying any more than that, do hit that button below, and you can hit the notification bell so that there's a reminder. So I'll leave a link in the description below for the live stream tomorrow. If you hit the notification bell, you'll get a reminder when that video goes live. It would be good to see you. It should certainly be an interesting one. And yeah, could the coldest of the entire winter still be upon us? That is going to be the question. But this is the temperature anomalies through the first day of February, the final month of meteorological winter. 2024-25. We do have a very mild lower 48 of the United States, Greenland, and also much of Europe is warmer than average. If we look at the upcoming 5 days of the GFS ensemble, you can see here that we continue to see that mild North America, particularly so across the lower 48, central and southern lower 48 to be precise. If we blow this up a little bit, it's easier for you to see. You can see here that generally we've got some colder air moving in out of Western Canada into the far north of the Pacific Northwest, Northern Plains, and even New England. We've got something slightly below average showing up here. But generally speaking, we're flooding the lower 48 with Pacific air. And when you look at Europe as well, you can see here that it is generally milder than average upcoming 5 day period. That being said, it looks as if we are going to start to see changes take place. High pressure that's going to build quite strongly through the course of the at least the first half of next week. That looks as if it's going to try and retrograde back up towards Scandinavia. We may start to transport some colder air underneath the high towards the UK and Ireland, but we'll look at that in more details coming up over the in tomorrow's live stream. Looking at North America, and you can see here the upcoming 5 days looks like this here. So generally cold and average now starting to show up parts of Quebec into Labrador, Newfoundland, into New Brunswick, the Canadian Maritimes. But we've got particularly colder over western portions of Canada at the moment, particularly mild conditions across the southern tier of the lower 48. These are the current temperatures at the time of recording, which is around about 10 to 6 on this Saturday evening. You can see here we've got very mild conditions right the way across the lower 48. A stark contrast to what we've seen during the month of January, where we have at least seen the coldest January, I believe, since 1994. But we could even hold on to the coldest since January 1988. I'm not sure what the exact figures are for the month of January overall, but it was a cold month across the lower 48. And for this is looking across the northern hemisphere, plenty of warmer than average conditions across the high latitudes of Canada and also Russia into Scandinavia also. But if you look at Europe, we did have a colder than average month of January, potentially the coldest since 2021, I believe. This comes on the back of a warmer than average December. So it's going to be interesting to see. This is the month of December. It's going to be interesting to see how the month of February pans out. Based on modeling, anyway, this is the latest run of the GFS extended in terms of the temperature anomaly through the next 30 days. And you can see here that the UK is actually below average for the month of February here. This takes all the way out between Friday the 31st of January and Sunday the 2nd of March. And that is quite interesting. Let's have a look and see what the what the latest ECM weeklies for the same time frame is showing. Below average for the UK and Ireland as well. looking at other models, let's have a quick look at the CFS extended, and it's showing slightly warmer than average across Scotland. I have a little bit of a mixture. England, Wales, we've got generally warmer than average across Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. So this is some of the long range. This is the 30-day period, obviously, so there is fluctuations in between. But this is the current temperatures according to Meteoseal across Europe at the moment. So while we've got a mild United States, we also have a largely mild Europe also. So these are the current temperatures this evening. So we start off the month of February, generally where we left January off, and that is milder than average for the United States and the UK. So you can see here, this is a tweets from Maximiliano Herrera, based in Costa Rica. Extreme temperatures around the world, certainly well worth a check out if you're interested in knowing stats from around the world. But exceptional warmth in the Arctic, very mild air is flowing towards the high latitudes. Today, exceptional temperatures of 17.6. So this is a tweet from today indicating that we've seen temperatures as high as 17.6 in Iceland, temperatures already above freezing in Svalbard. Remember what I said, deep trough over the North Atlantic and Greenland here. We've got a strong ridge of high pressure over Western Europe. That's creating a channel to import some unusually mild subtropical air all the way up into the high latitudes, helping build the pressure. And we are likely to see the Arctic Oscillation going negative over the next week or so due to this northward import of subtropical warmth into the Arctic region. That then starts to build the pressure. But as a consequence of this southerly flow, we're seeing temperatures 17.6 in Iceland, temperatures above freezing in Svalbard, well up into the Arctic Circle, a place that I would very much like to see at some point in time. January 2025, this is the world extremes. So the Northern Hemisphere, we've seen the highest temperatures 41.2 in Mexico on the 20th of January. Stark contrast, by the way, we've seen a minus 20 in Mexico. So very big contrast during the month of January, 41.2 versus minus 20 Celsius. The Northern Hemisphere lowest temperature was 61 below 0 Celsius at Summit Camp in Greenland on the 16th. The Southern Hemisphere's highest temperature was 49.3, quite high up there in terms of a record territory. That was in Geraldton, Australia, back on the 20th of January. The lowest temperature within the Southern Hemisphere was minus 46.5 in Concordia. So continuing to skip through here, we've got some milder conditions building into parts of the Antarctic Peninsula. We're obviously shortly after the summer solstice down here. The plateau starts to cool and fast, while the peninsula might keep warming in the February because of ice and snowpack melting. This is a tweet here, like I say, by our friend Maximiliano. Big contrast across Mexico. You can find a huge variety of temperature in Mexico these days, even more than 60 Celsius difference in 12 hours. We've got one particular location that has seen temperatures as high as 40.4 Celsius, while we had a minus 20.5 Celsius at the La Rosilla. So big contrast in terms of temperature. But we've had some very impressive warmth across parts of the Caribbean. Jamaica, to be exact, a low in Montego Bay of 26 Celsius destroys the record for the highest January temperature ever recorded in all of Jamaica. So a 26 degrees Celsius low across parts of the Caribbean islands. Very impressive indeed. Continuing to skip through, we've seen some very impressive heat across parts of South America. Obviously, it's the height of summer here, but the temperatures in Patagonia of 42 Celsius. We've had a 39 Celsius in one particular location, an all-time record, and also all-time record minimum temperatures, high minimum temperatures of 27 Celsius in a couple of locations. Continuing to skip through here to see what's going on around the planet at the moment. We've had obviously the very cold January, but we've seen a dramatic rise in temperature at the end of the month. Record warm temperatures seen in Wisconsin, Iowa, and Minnesota. Where Minneapolis back a week or so ago had a high temperature of -6 Fahrenheit and a low temperature of -19 degrees Fahrenheit. So a very sharp rise in temperature, and this has been something that has been quite a hemisphere-wide setup at the through the course of the winter so far, and even beyond that, extending back into the late summer and the autumn season. We've seen these big fluctuations in temperature between mild and cold. Even here in Scotland, temperature of minus 18.9 Celsius recorded in Altahara. 3 days later, was seen plus 14 Celsius. So a rise in excess of 30 Celsius in the space of 48 to 72 hours is pretty remarkable stuff. And even here at Marfogan Weather HQ, we did have frozen pipes due to the temperature dropping below minus 10 Celsius, maximum temperature of minus 2 here. But we've seen a remarkable warmth across many areas of the northern hemisphere, also Eastern Europe in particular, with temperatures as high as 20 Celsius in Russia and more January records fallen. Ukraine as high as 14.4 Celsius, we had as high as, like I said, 20 Celsius in southern Russia during the month of January is pretty crazy stuff, really, when you think about it. Kind of going back and forward here, but this is a little bit of a world tour, a little bit of a less in depth, less technical video today, because there is going to be plenty discussed in tomorrow's video. And there's been a lot of hard work getting put into the February outlook, which is now freely available. You can click on the link below as well for the February outlook that was released yesterday evening. So this is a little bit of a kind of slightly less winded version of the global weather report, just to give you some perspective of what's taking place around the planet, but also a little bit less intense compared to normal. It will be back to normal again next weekend, where we'll have the global weather report live next Sunday evening. But you can see here again, very mild conditions across many areas of the Americas, the Caribbean region into Australia. Extraordinary minimum temperatures of 36 Celsius in Australia. The Bureau of Meteorology seems to confirm the insane minimum temperature set in Murchison on the 24th and 25th of January, which is the highest ever recorded in the western half of Australia and one of the highest ever recorded in all of the southern hemisphere in history. A new heat wave is coming. So temperatures back on the between the 24th and the 25th of January, minimum temperatures of 36 Celsius in parts of interior Western Australia, which is pretty crazy stuff. Looking at also new January records in Kenya, 39.8 Celsius. Here, that was also elevations above 500 meters, which is quite interesting. Moving back across to Europe, we did see a temperature in Murcia of 28 Celsius. Also, we had a temperature as high as 26.9 in Valencia on the Mediterranean coast. That was the warmest January temperature on record for the Valencia area. We've also seen highest minimum temperatures as high as 16 Celsius in Almeria, and Castellon 14.8 in Menorca. Morocco also seeing some very, very mild temperatures. We've seen temperatures into the 30s, for example, in parts of Morocco. Overnight temperatures of 20 Celsius. So tropical nights being recorded in the middle of winter. Albeit, yeah, you're still talking in lower latitudes, but even still, Morocco can get chilly enough at this time of the year, given depending on what type of weather pattern you experience. This is what I'm talking about here. Historic heat northern Africa, Algeria as high as 28 Celsius. Obviously, it doesn't sound like a lot for places like this, but remember, it does get colder during the winter season down here in the north of Africa. But yeah, temperatures as high as 18.4 in France, 17.6 in Switzerland, Germany 18.9. So yeah, some very mild conditions. I believe there's been parts of the Balkan region that's been as high as 25 Celsius. So continuing to skip through here, remarkable heat down in Thailand, with January records breaking here. I believe one location in Thailand recorded a temperature that was just zero point 0.1 Celsius off a January record for the whole of Asia, which is quite interesting. If I can find it, I will show you that one. I think this is going back maybe a little bit further back. Also, an interesting one up in Alaska. We've seen obviously the remarkable temperatures down in the lower 48, but as a consequence, you often see temperatures milder than average across Alaska when the lower 48 is cold. And this was a very impressive one. Exceptional mildness continues in Alaska and northwestern Canada. We've seen it in Siberia. We've seen it in Alaska. Higher latitudes, warmer than average. We've seen lower latitudes across the lower 48. UK, pretty much an island in a sea of mild, the UK during the month of January, but nevertheless, Fairbanks, to be exact, failed to drop below 0 Celsius. The minimum temperature was 33 Fahrenheit. This is only the second time that's happened in January in some 120 plus years. I think the last time we've seen it was 1981, and that was at the same minimum of 33. We had a record maximum in Tok of 47 Celsius, which I think is about 7 or 8 Celsius to be precise. Bear in mind how far north you are. 7 or 8 Celsius doesn't sound particularly warm, but remember where these locations are in the high latitudes. This is the impressive one here. Temperature of where was this here? 38.2 Celsius in a place that I'm not going to try and pronounce, but this was only so this was in Thailand, 0.8 Celsius below the highest temperature ever recorded in January in the whole of Asia, and that was in Thailand. Temperature of 38, which is 100 degrees Fahrenheit. So continue to skip through here. Again, temperatures 20 plus Celsius above average up into parts of Alaska. Let's move on then and see other aspects that are going on. Let's click on to Weather Monitor on Twitter. This is a very interesting one. First rains in LA in some 8 months, obviously affecting the fire-stricken areas of Los Angeles as well. So, after destroying 15,000 structures, displacing 150,000 people, and claiming 28 lives, we've seen the first rains, but these lead to mudslides due to the fact that you've got the burn scars on the landscape, and then the rain falls, and there's literally nothing to soak up that moisture. The ground is obviously pretty kind of baked hard due to the lack of rainfall, but you have fire on top of that, and it creates a situation where you've got a renewed disaster potentially unfolding when you've got fire to rain. The ground obviously struggles to cope with the contrast. This is an interesting one here from Weather Monitor showing on the 29th of January, with the Manchulian Oscillation being generally focused over the Indian Ocean and the maritime continent. We've had enhanced rainfall in an area that is typically wet anyway, but Sarawaki in Malaysia, 5 people dead in a landslide triggered by heavy rainfall, severe flooding affecting this region. So parts of Malaysia, Indonesia, and Southeast Asia experiencing extreme rainfall, and as a consequence, extreme flooding. But this is a naturally very wet part of the world, it has to be said, but nevertheless, still pretty sad to see so much severe flooding. Down in Brazil, Santa Catarina, extreme rainfall here. To the Santa Catarina area. I'm going to stop talking during the videos because I notice that you can't actually hear what I'm saying because of the background of the video. So I kind of try and stop talking while I'm showing these videos. But we've obviously seen the tragedy both in DC and also in Philadelphia with air crashes in the last couple of days. So very, very sad situation coming out of both DC and northeast Philadelphia. Moving on then, let me see if there's anything else I can show you. We've seen pretty interesting weather, blizzard conditions across the mountain peaks of Hawaii, but they also flash flooding in lower elevations across Hawaii. We've seen gale force winds, dramatic rainfall, and as a consequence, dramatic flooding. Check this out.
KA Beach condominiums, we've got a van and some
these were the scenes in Maui in Hawaii, but we also seen it widespread in other parts of the island chain. Looking further on, then some large hail falling in parts of South Africa. There's more flooding. This was in the Vilaine River in Redon, France. So let me just see here if there's anything else that I can show. Moving on to our very good friend Terry Goose. Let's see what he has been sharing in the last couple of days, and then we'll kind of round it up at that. I think I've kind of covered enough here, but we've certainly seen some. We're going to see some significant rainfall at low levels, but also high mountain snow parts of the Pacific Northwest into British Columbia and Western Canada. Record breaking heat in South America. Let me see here what else we've got here. The heat across parts of Central Europe, western portions of North America. Temperatures as high in Fort Nelson, way up in the north of British Columbia, as high as 13.4 Celsius. The record being 14.9, so shy of the record. Let me see here what else. Some very cold temperatures in parts of British Columbia as well. Lots of back and forth. We've also had the remarkable mild conditions here. Record mild in northwestern Canada, Yukon. We've seen temperatures as high as 3.8 Celsius in places. We've also seen a new monthly record in Old Crow of 3.2 Celsius and Margaret Lake 1.4 Celsius. We've seen obviously some remarkable warmth across many areas of Russia. But I don't think there's an awful lot else to show here. So bear with a second. Let me just see if there's anything else on my feed to show, and then we will round it up at that. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Do check out the February outlook. We've got the Strat Warming showing up. We're going to look at that in a little bit more detail tomorrow. This was a blizzard, by the way, and where is this?
Вот
Sakhalin
снимаю видео.
after a blizzard. Now, the video is very small, unfortunately. Can I blow
Время
it up? Yes, I can.
15 минут 4.
That is a
У нас
snowstorm.
нету Соколи. На Луговой 41. Новострой. Ни дорог, ни трактор не проехал.
Now, you're basically talking
Людям
about
завтра на
cars that are
работу.
completely
Неизвестно
buried
как.
in snow here. Some of these photographs really are remarkable. So I don't know whereabouts the Sakhalin region of Russia is, but after a very heavy blizzard, a big dig out is underway here. So this is the Yakutia region of Siberia. Hurricane force winds, stinging, bitterly cold, and heavy snowfall as well. So a very nasty situation within this community of Yakutia. And this is from Kirill, based in Russia. We did see some high elevation snow above roughly 200 meters on my drive between Inverness, Glasgow, back up to Inverness again, just north of Aviemore. Between Aviemore and Slough Summit, we did have another 3 to 10 plus centimeters of snow over high ground, rain falling at low levels with an ice risk. We obviously seen the record breaking snowfall, discussed that in the last week or so here on the channel, anywhere from Texas all the way up to North Carolina. We did see some snow amounts in the Gulf Coast that have surpassed parts of northwestern Canada and Alaska in terms of the snow for the season, which is pretty amazing stuff. Let me see if there's anything else to show. I think we've pretty much covered everything. So I hope you've enjoyed today's video. Be sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and also hit that subscribe button. I'll be back at 4 p.m. tomorrow with the live stream discussing the February outlook, possible Scandinavian block. There is rumblings, there is some flirts with the model indicating Dura Seip, a bit of a beast from the east showing on the modelling as well. But plenty of reason to stick around. Very exciting times to come if you're a lover of all things winter. If you don't, I'm afraid you might want to look away because we could have potentially a colder than average February coming up. But I hope you can join me tomorrow for the live stream. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and I'll see you tomorrow.